Hey, this is Liz, and you're listening to the SouthCack Syndicate Podcast.
Boom.
Episode number
13.
Lucky 13.
That's right.
Great. Good deal. Weather can't make up its mind today.
It feels good to me.
48 degrees when I woke up. Got a long sleeve shirt on, ready to get back in a t-shirt and flip flops by the afternoon. And then evening it goes right back down.
We'll have like a month of that, and then it'll snow.
A lot of feedback on last week's guest, Alex Butterball with Kiwi Brewing. And so we kind of decided to stay on that same kind of line.
Yeah, people are going to think there's a theme here. Mm-hmm. We had bourbon,
With Kutu.
beer,
Yeah.
and now
We've got Paul Cain from Magnetic South Brewing. Welcome to SouthCack Syndicate Podcast, Paul.
Thank you,
You're
Kyle.
welcome.
Thank you, Jared. Thank y'all for having me. Really excited to be a part of this Lucky
Why is that
13
funny?
I don't know.
show.
He's just like, thank you.
well,
You know, I'm not used to doing
good
this.
stuff.
I'm used to having a bigger audience when I'm talking to people or talking.
is that like a slam on our?
No, I mean, talking to your viewers.
Oh, gotcha.
And just used to them being physically present. Not,
I'd listen. We have 10 solid listeners, so
You have
just so you-
tens of listeners.
Yeah,
Our parents.
tens of listeners. Yeah,
I'm one. I love what y'all are doing. I think it's really cool
good.
to have local podcast that brings in
try to spread some good
local
vibes.
people.
Yeah,
I'm sorry that your show's probably getting canceled after this one. But,
Kutu calls it SouthCack Mojo.
yeah. I think it's a thing too.
Yeah.
I really do.
So it's going to be a little bit different. Even though Paul is a owner of another brewery, we're not going to talk beer science. We're going to talk more of economic impact, locations, business.
Yeah, I'd like to know like the business. But we talked a little business last week, but like more on the business side behind it, right?
Yeah.
Challenges, the things you go through. We can talk about distribution, and we kind of talked about that a little bit last week. But you guys are in the works of distributing, right? Potentially.
So, yeah, we will eventually get there. That's just a whole nother layer of complexity to add to the operation. We've done a little bit of local distribution, but we don't have any current standard places where we're distributed.
Right.
We did a collaboration with the Whale over in Greenville, and that brewed a beer with him called the Sake Tumi, which was a Japanese rice lager.
Okay. I was
Very
going to say,
crisp.
was it a rice wine style?
Rice lager, like a Sapporo or a Asahi.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, that's really we've done a little bit of distribution. We're kind of building up to that. We've only been in business 1 year as of September. So thank God we survived a year so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, third guest to ever bring something to the podcast, which is starting to become a thing. So this is good. So today we've got a couple beers we're going to try from Magnetic South Brewery, and this one is called Gas Station Sunglasses.
The first thing we noticed when these came in was the artwork. So
Yeah, super cool.
if you're listening, you either need to go over to the website, go to the brewery,
Yeah.
or go watch the YouTube channel.
I actually wrote a song, and the first line is Gas Station Sunglasses.
Really?
Yeah, a female artist, local artist, cut it. So you can actually listen to it. It's pretty cool.
What's the name of the song?
God,
Did I miss it?
terrible. No, but Brandy Colt ended up recording it. So you can search her as an artist and listen to it. Sunny Day Hell. That's the name of the song.
Okay.
So it's a good little song. So we're going to start with Gas Station Sunglasses. While I'm pouring, Paul, tell us a little bit about this beer, of what it is.
So that beer is a light lager. As you see, as you're pouring it, very white in color.
Yeah, you could see through it.
See through it. It's it's not real yellow. It's more, I'd say almost it's a light yellow.
Yeah.
Looks like beer.
Ooh, it's got an aroma to it too that I can't put mine.
Is it citrus? No?
It might just be the lager,
Yeah.
smell. I guess I'm catching.
And just so y'all are aware, I didn't brew this.
Oh, that's good.
We have a fantastic brewer who's one of my partners, Adam Willier, goes by Cousin. He's the mastermind behind all the beer.
So we can just tell everybody our cousin made this.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cousin Adam, we appreciate your craft.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's good. That's light. This is, you said earlier before we got started, this is one of your best sellers. We're at your first location in Anderson.
That's right. Yeah, this is Because that was one of the things when we were talking about the business and establishing a brewery. There's some folks out there in the brewery world that are trying to convince everybody to drink super hoppy IPAs and real thick stouts, and we said, well, why don't we just give the people what they want, what they're already drinking? Bud Light, Natural Light, exactly.
It's like the gateway drug.
So this is
To
how
the
you
stouts.
This is how you get them started.
This is you can have a locally produced, made in America, by Americans, for Americans, American-owned business making beer that tastes like the other beer that's not owned by Americans. Like most of these big mega breweries, these multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporations. But this is fresh. It was made locally. When we sell the beer, the money stays right here in the upstate.
Yep.
Our employees are all here. And we're bringing people into the downtown where we're located on Main Street in Anderson. And so the city, certainly appreciates that. And the businesses around us have we've basically created a parking problem on Main Street in Anderson.
Which is a good problem to have.
It's a good problem.
Yeah. Maybe I mentioned it last week too. One of the things that kind of aggravates me is when these up and coming breweries that actually do what you just mentioned are then purchased by the larger, and then we went through a big phase of that when craft beer started really getting popular, because I think they were a little bit scared about the fact that, hey, this is not cool. It's taking away our business. Right. I think they've kind of become accustomed to it now, and they're in the craft world. So I think maybe they feel like they can compete there. But one of the things is like when, I don't know who it was. Was it Wicked Weed? Who was it that got sold? I was like, man, I like their beer, but I don't know if I can support
the commercialization of it.
Yeah.
I
like the craft side, I like the small micro brews.
I don't buy Wicked Weed anymore. I don't buy Goose Island. I don't buy anything that is owned by a large publicly held corporation. Yeah. And I'm not saying they don't make good beer, but if I can go to the grocery store and pick up a 4-pack of beer and I know the guy who brewed it versus it's made in a giant facility somewhere, in the Midwest or the West. I don't know these people. Mm-hmm. They're making tons of money.
Well, support local.
Local. Yeah.
Even if it costs you a little bit more.
Amen.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree
and
with
it's
that.
usually going to be as good. It's almost always going to be fresher if it's produced locally.
Right.
Sure. So we went right into pouring beer, but tell us a little bit about how you came to the name Magnetic South. I know early on when we were talking about this years ago, you were looking for different locations in Oconee, Anderson, Pickens, and just trying to settle on the best location. So what I want to kind of get into is how'd you come up with the name? And then we want to talk about Clemson a little bit, the old Astro, where you were originally looking, and then where you're going now on your second location.
Yeah. I've got a little funny story
and
too.
how you got to Anderson. So
I got a little story I think I want to tell.
Right now?
Yeah. It kind of leads into what we're about to go. So,
okay.
So funny story. When you were first planning the Astro project, I was down at the beer station and Patrick in there. I'm one of those just ask questions all the time. Patrick's like, yeah, I think Paul Cain's going to open up a brewery. And I was like, really? So fast forward like a week or 2 weeks later, we're all in there for some kind of development thing that's going on. What was it?
A young entrepreneur or young professional.
And so we're standing there, and unbeknownst to me,
Was I in there?
Yeah, it was us three. We were standing there talking, and unbeknownst to me, you hadn't said anything to me, and I didn't know you'd said something to him, but apparently you guys had talked.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And so I was like, yeah, man, I hear you're opening a brewery. And you looked at me and you're like, where'd you hear that at? And for the life of me, I couldn't remember who told me.
I'm standing there going, I didn't say a word because I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
So Paul's like, hey, I got some stuff to tell you, but you need to sign this paperwork first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
So he's
like,
looking, he's looking at me like, did I tell him?
I'm like, I didn't tell anybody.
And you're looking at him like, dude, did you tell him?
I was about to get sued and I didn't say a word. Yeah.
So come find out, a good time later or whatever, Jared's like, man, I didn't tell you that, did I? I was like, no, that wasn't me. So anyway, that's a funny story. So
Yeah, that is funny. Well, we're not going to sue you
I
now
appreciate
that we
that.
found that out.
Appreciate that.
it wasn't him. So
I know. I'm
That's
just
right.
kidding. I'm
That's
just
right.
kidding.
So Magnetic
So-
South name and then Anderson location.
So originally, and there's a lot of, as you can imagine, when you're starting a brewery and you don't really know what you're doing, there's a lot of things that you do that end up being funny stories.
Well, that's any new
Any
startup.
business. Yeah. And I, in my other life as a lawyer, I've represented a ton of startup businesses and helped them get off the ground and enjoyed that. And never assisted with a brewery or alcohol production business, but
yeah, I'm sure it has its own challenges, right?
yeah. It absolutely. It's got a lot more layers than your typical business because we have all the problems that a normal startup has. And then you have alcohol production on top of that. And then you have alcohol retail on top of that. So you have multiple layers of complication. But I'm not complaining about it. It certainly creates some barriers to entry, I think.
Yeah.
But originally, this is another funny story. I think it was September, August of 2017. This is how long ago we
You've been
opened in Anderson in September of 2021. 4 solid years of working on this, and so originally I wanted to open in downtown Seneca.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
but you didn't because Alex had already announced, right?
yeah. So it was.
You have to go back to the drawing board, or
Yeah, exactly. So there were people that have, because I also served on county council, they're upset because I'm not opening a brewery in Oconee County. Like I was gonna do that. But Alex beat me to the punch, and I think they're fantastic. I mean, I love Alex and Allison and everything they're doing there. I mean, I'm a customer, and they make great beer and great environment. But that, when that didn't pan out, it wouldn't look good either for a county councilman to open a business 2 doors down from another guy. Just not that there's anything wrong with that, but people would always talk, just like they do about everything else.
you couldn't win.
It was a lose-lose. So we said, all right, what about Clemson? So we actually formed, at that point, it was, I think, January of 2018, met who is now my partner and brewer, Adam Willier. He was brewing at Thomas Creek. He was a head brewer there. And so we were looking at locations, and we're looking at the Astro.
Which is a great place.
For those that don't know, the Astro used to be the movie theater in downtown, right there on, I guess, was that Tiger Boulevard?
College Avenue.
College Avenue.
Yeah.
And but it had since it's been abandoned for many, many years.
Yeah, what,
Right.
15 years or something like that. now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's being redeveloped now. In fact, it's got the junkyard in there with the I believe with it's a gym, and then there's also going to be walk-ons, restaurant, pub.
Okay. So they're doing something with it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. Absolutely. So, but anyway, we're going to call it Clemson Brewery. And I was looking at the name because Clemson is a unique name. Like, this is, there's no other Clemson. Well, it turns out there's Clemson Brothers Brewing in upstate New York.
Oh, really?
And
They come from Clemson here?
No, it was, I don't know that there's any relationship, but I think it was an old razor manufacturer that this guy had repurposed up there. And
So he just kept the name.
he kept the name Clemson Brothers Brewing. And so being the lawyer, I call the guy and I say, hey, we're about to open a brewery, or we're hoping to open a brewery in Clemson. Do you mind, do you have any problem if we use the name Clemson Brewery? I mean, it's different than Clemson Brothers. And he's got all like standoffish with me. And it was like, yeah, absolutely we do. So I ended up getting a cease and desist letter.
Oh, no.
From
Even before
from
you
them,
even did anything.
Before we even did anything. So like we hadn't even done anything, and we're already getting lawyers, send us letters. So talked with our trademark lawyer, and he's like, it's not, not worth
Trying
the
to pursue
fight
it. Yeah.
right out the gate. So anyway, that leads up to the name. So we knew we couldn't use Clemson. even though we're planning on being in Clemson, and there's only one Clemson city in the entire country,
Right.
Except some guy up in upstate New York is saying we can't use the name. So, you know, when you're trying to name a brand, you know, with all the branding, you just go through hundreds, if not thousands, of different names. We'll just be texting back and forth. And so by this point, January, Adam, aka Cousin, came on board. Yep. And then I think it was May of 2018 that my other partner, Tanner Coombs, came on board. And so we were just going back and forth. And Tanner, I think, was actually the one that came up with the name Magnetic South because, and at first we're like, that's kind of,
Yeah.
But as the more and more we thought about it and thought about the South, the southeastern United States specifically, of course, there's a play on words there, magnetic north, magnetic south.
Right.
Magnetic south is true south, just like magnetic north is true north. And but we really believe, and I think it's evident from the growth we're seeing in the South, that the South's magnetic. If you're from here, you don't want to leave.
That's right.
And if you do leave, like you did, you come right back.
Yep.
And then everybody else is trying to get here as quick as they can. So either they come here for college, and then they say, "Oh, I definitely want to stay here. I want to come back for a career, or when I retire." And so we see a lot of that around. So, and it's due to the Southern hospitality, the mild climate. I mean, you're just talking about, you know, it's cool. Yeah. You can enjoy like 3 seasons in one day.
Welcome to South Carolina.
Yeah,
that's right.
So all the outdoor recreation opportunities. It's a great place to live.
It was the best kept secret.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, it's like,
yeah,
everybody started coming here.
I remember when I moved out here 25 years ago, I was in school. My friends were like, we're leaving. As soon as we get out of school, we're leaving. I'm like, why? This is awesome. Where are you going to go?
Well, you did come from California.
I mean, yeah. Well,
I mean,
and it wasn't, California's different now than it was when I was there, but maybe not much, but it's at least a little bit different.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's just it's green. It's not, you go out west, it's all brown, no trees, no water.
Did 15 years in the Midwest. I say that like I was in prison. No, I didn't do. I spent 15 years in the Midwest.
Yeah. Well, your Midwest, though, at least it was green.
Well, it was corn and beans.
Yeah.
And big whitetail. But anyway, so how'd you come up to Anderson? So Clemson deal fell through. The Astro wasn't going to work.
So speaking of COVID, this was in May of 2019. We've been working on the Astro project, going to city council meetings, meeting with city council and the engineers and stuff for wastewater, and going through this whole process. And then COVID hit in March of 2020. The university shut down, and no matter what people say, thank you. For those of you at home that aren't seeing this,
We just got a little refill.
We
got a little refill.
The gas station sunglasses.
Yeah, so COVID hits, and Clemson, when the university's not in session, it's getting more and more, I guess, of its own. The city's getting more of its own identity, but it really is. I mean,
Majority of the population
is Clemson.
Yeah.
And so when that shut down, and those kids went home, and those professors went somewhere else, or everybody's locked in their house, we didn't know how deadly COVID was, how long it was going to last, but we saw these businesses that had been in Clemson for decades
and decades,
going out of business.
Yeah.
And we said, well, maybe we don't want that much exposure
to season.
The seasonality is one thing. Just, in the summer, it's tough, from talking with folks who have businesses in Clemson that rely on, food and beverage. But you add on top of that COVID, and that really can wipe out your whole market. Yeah. So,
we talked about the fact that breweries are a destination too anyway. So you're going to have a lot of those college students that are still going to go to Anderson to come visit your establishment, just as the destination.
That's right. And so we always wanted to get back to Clemson, but we knew that didn't make sense to open as our first location. And so in talking with the realtor we were working with down in Anderson with McCoy Wright, he said, y'all got to check out this building. It's an old grocery store, which are good in general. for breweries because they already have usually high ceilings, good clear span. So there's not a lot of columns inside, and then a good strong floor. Usually have a loading dock. Usually have some plumbing already in there.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's a good sort of skeleton to have a brewery, and so we saw it, and it was a car parts store most recently. Did not look like a brewery, but over the course of about a year, we worked with a general contractor, Chad Moore, and his team, and they turned that old car parts place into a brewery, and it's an incredible asset now. I mean, it's a great happening spot in downtown Anderson, and what I'll tell you, what really sealed the deal for us at that location, and if you go down there, you look at pictures online, you can see the city had the vision to say, hey, there were two buildings. Our building's on the left if you're facing from Main Street, and then there's another building on the right. And the city said, we're going to install a public green area there.
Sweet.
That's going to have, shared use. The public can come in. And so when they told us that, we said, this is going to be awesome. Now, it took a long time
to get that there. Did they say, if you do this, we're going to do that? Or we're going to do this to entice you to do that?
I'm not sure. I think they had already said that they were going to do that. Yeah. But when we found out about it, that was the hook.
That's it. I love working with municipalities that have vision.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important, especially if you're going to invest and spend money. Like, you want to see the council have the same vision as you do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that really works in a lot of spaces and really doesn't in a lot of spaces. I drove by your location a while back. Still have not stopped by. But my tailor, Craig Cahaley, has a shop right down the street. And so I was leaving his shop, I think we're going to have him on the podcast soon.
Sweet.
So, I was coming out of there, and I'm like, oh. And you're right on the main drag. Mm-hmm. People think the main drag of Anderson is the mall.
No.
Main drag of Anderson is past the mall. You keep going like I call it the historic district. I guess that's what it is. It is beautiful.
It is. Mm-hmm. It's really nice. And it's actually, well, I can't say that it's been growing because I don't really know, but you go down there and it's pretty established now.
I think is it the Blakely that is there?
The Blakely.
When Hotel. They came in, it was like, that's the anchor. And then everybody just kind of started coming around. But I love that part. I just hate that it's so far from Mountain Rest. It's a long drive to go to a brewery. And then, I mean, that's the problem.
Especially for somebody that when you come off the mountain.
What beer am I pulling next for our next sample?
I would say the Oktoberfest. Since it is
October.
It's Oktoberfest season here in Walhalla.
And we are Germantown. Do we need to rinse these out or we'll be all right?
I think because this is so light, it'll be okay.
Got it. Got you. You like them a little heavier, don't you?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want to get filled
the
up.
The artwork here is super cool. So here's something that I didn't know. You can peel these labels off. Mm-hmm. And they're stickers.
Yeah, it's a free sticker.
That's so awesome. So tell us a little bit about the Oktoberfest beer.
It's a German Marzen beer, and I'm not a beer expert. I love beer. That's why I wanted to get into.
It's a nice gold color to it, or
golden brown.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know this about you, but you also grow hops.
I did grow hops. So that's sort of been a orphanage for hops, a orphan project almost.
Sure.
Russ Price and I, many years ago, we're talking about let's grow some hops, and so we just didn't really do a lot of research on the. Nobody did any research on the. Nobody's done any research on how you can grow hops in the Southeast until relatively recently.
Oh, really?
NC State is doing research. I think App State's doing research, and then there's some schools I think in the upper or the Mid Atlantic that are doing research. But the hops that are grown in the Northwest or in New Zealand, the I guess latitude.
You're over my
longitude,
head, man.
The distance close to the pole.
Yeah. So it has to be
magnetic north.
It has to be a certain height above the equator type of deal.
A certain length of day, a long day.
Gotcha.
Photo stage is what they call it. And so those hops are all bred to grow with like a 16-hour day, 16 hours of sunlight. Well, we don't get that here. Even in the summer, we get like 13.
Yeah.
or 14.
We're lucky to get 8 in the winter.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I mean, the hop growing season is always in the summer. They start coming out in like March, and then they grow up the little core twine string, and then you harvest them in usually July. But our yields, we planted the hops and we put in the poles.
You're doing an acre of a garden.
This was like maybe half an acre.
Yeah.
And I think our yield was
a bushel.
It was abysmal. I mean, I think I took them down. We dried them out. You got to get them down to 8 to 10% moisture content, and they're flowers. I mean, that's what a hop. If you feel a dry hop cone, it is very light.
Yeah.
And when you need 5 pounds of hops, that's a lot of flowers.
Yeah.
And when you're only yielding maybe a pound wet per plant, in the Northwest they're yielding like 5 to 7 pounds. So it was a terrible
experiment.
Terrible experiment. Yeah. But the good news is David Thornton and the guys at Carolina Barnhouse have kind of taken over that hop yard there, and they've replanted because something got into the hops one year, the hop vines, and they they've had to invest substantial money in there, but they make an Oconee Pale Ale with the hops from that.
Yeah, I've had it.
That's cool.
It's good beer.
They've got Carolina also has a jalapeno.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that'd be all me right there.
I don't care for it because I'm not a jalapeno fan. If it was Wahala habanero, I'm all in. I love that. But that's interesting. But it's good to know that you know it from earth to business, right? So you kind of know the process of what your cousin Adam's doing with it all.
That's right. I mean, I homebrewed a lot, or a few times, I should say. After about the 5th or 6th time, I said, "Wait, I'm spending 6 hours brewing, 2 hours waiting for it to ferment, or 2 weeks waiting for it to ferment, 2 hours bottling, and I've just paid $2 per beer for beer that I made myself. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you're just in it for the artist, aspect." I said, "We got to scale this thing up."
Yeah.
So, went from brewing 5-gallon batches. Now we brew 310-gallon batches.
Wow.
And that's, it's a 10-barrel brew house. And so, Alex was talking about, they got a 5-barrel system there at Kiwi.
Right.
We have a 10-barrel at Anderson. We'll have the same system at Greenville.
So I forgot about Greenville. So you're currently up and running on the strip in Anderson. You're under construction in Clemson, right over the bridge. Is that correct?
We're further along in Greenville, but we are under construction in Clemson. So.
Okay, and that's in Clemson. You're going to be right if you're coming from Oconee across the bridge. It's going to be right before you get to the subway.
That's right.
There on the right, the new development's coming in. Magnetic.
Oh,
South.
where all those
Dockside.
Magnetic South has a banner.
Dockside. That's right.
Banner on the fence.
So so you guys gonna be in the bottom of that?
Yeah. So we'll be about 3,500 square feet facing the lake. So when you come across the bridge, you'll actually be able to see.
That's an awesome place.
Yeah, they've got space for 14 boats to dock at. It's going to be pretty cool.
It's an awesome place
because the sunset over the water.
You're going to have boat traffic, and then you're going to have all those people in that end of town that don't want to go all the way on the other side of town, which is the only other.
And we think we'll pull people from the Oconee side as well.
Of course.
It's not a far drive, and there's a stoplight there, which some people don't like. But it was for me, that was a necessity for us to be located on 123.
Yeah.
Turning left in Clemson. Turning left on 123, just about anywhere.
Is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Unless you got a stoplight.
Yeah.
That's right. And for $500 a month rent, you can't beat that for that location, right?
That is definitely not that.
So you're further along in Greenville. Tell us where the Greenville location is.
So Greenville is going to be, we're hoping to open at Judson Mill. Well, we're definitely opening at Judson Mill. I'm thinking of the timeline. We're hoping by February to be open. We'll see. There's, in starting a business, there's all sorts of variables we got to have the licensing for retail. We got to have the licensing for production all lined up, and of course get a CO. And so that's
what end of town. What end of town is that Judson Mill on?
So if you're going into Greenville from Easley on 123, before you get to St. Francis Hospital on the right, it's about 3/4 of a mile before that on the right. There's a big
New
old
location.
Milliken mill.
Is it a new location?
Well, it's No, well, it was a Milliken Mill. It was almost 1 million square
Oh,
foot.
is that the one that has that big mural outside?
Yes.
It's like
And-
cars or something.
No,
Yes, it is.
no, that's the
it's-
co-work
yeah.
or something like that. Are you on the right of that?
We're before you get there. It's I can't think of the name of this.
It's on 123 though.
It's on 123.
Yeah, I know
It's
what you're
up
talking
on-
about.
So there's Blockhaven indoor climbing wall.
Yeah.
There's Cowboy
That'd
Up.
be a great location.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things that are coming in there that will be complementary to us and will be complementary to them.
Kind of like that Birds Fly South
exactly.
theme where they
Yep.
got axe throwing.
Except this has, in addition to that, apartments. I don't know if Birds Fly.
They don't. It's out in the middle
yeah.
of nowhere, it seems like to me.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that. And that should open first quarter next year, I guess I can say.
Congratulations on that.
Those are both killer locations.
We talk a lot about, on Kyle and I sidebar a lot, and we've mentioned it on the podcast before. When you're an entrepreneur or you're starting a new business, everybody has a different opinion. You got to grow fast and you got to go big. Some people's like, I want to take it slow and make this really grassroots. Some people would say you're growing too fast. You just opened a year ago in Anderson.
That's right.
You're under construction in Clemson. You're under construction in Greenville. What people don't realize, you've been working on this for 4 years before
Right.
opening day. Do you and your collective group feel like everything is, this is good, this is the right speed, or does some of you, do you have a little battlefield going on at your board meetings saying this, maybe we're growing too fast? Because it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So
It's kind of a seize the moment type of deal too, though, right?
That's exactly right, Kyle. We said, and this has been my outlook on it, the brewing industry in upstate South Carolina is not saturated. And so, but it's just a matter of time before, we see all the influx of folks coming to the Southeast, and some of them have expertise and maybe a lot of capital, and they could just plop down breweries left and right. So we are trying to be first to market in the markets that we're choosing, and we're trying to find markets where there's no brewery, obviously.
When you're grabbing that killer real estate.
That's right.
well,
First
Clemson
too.
makes sense. Anderson makes sense. But why Greenville? And Greenville's got a handful.
Yeah, but Greenville, the West End's growing that way too.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
I see all them apartment buildings going up and stuff. I mean, it's going to be, so you're kind of like perfect there too, because
You're before downtown, core downtown. You're
That's
still,
right.
You're still pretty much downtown.
We don't have to worry about parking. We don't have super expensive rent like you would have downtown. And so, which is what you need when you're a manufacturer, basically. You can't afford $30 a foot. I mean, it's just not,
yeah.
you can't, because you got so much space you're using for production. Doesn't make sense to,
Yeah, it's
to
super
spend,
expensive to.
Class A office space rates for brewing equipment.
Yeah.
So, are we growing too fast? Most would probably say yes, to be honest.
Sure.
But if we don't grow this fast, we lose the opportunities. And at the same time, I was talking to a guy the other day. You can play your cards that you're dealt as best you can, and even the macro economy, the larger economy, can still take you down. So, those are things that are in the back of my mind as we see interest rates going up and things like that, labor shortages and the things that people like to talk about. That's always out there. But that's the I guess the Giannis coin of being an entrepreneur. You have to, in order to make money, you got to take risks.
Yeah.
There is risk.
And if we're doing it, we're probably keeping out competition. And if they're doing it, they're keeping us out. So you got to seize the moment when the time, if we would wait 5 years, those locations would already have breweries.
Yeah.
And I can promise you that because of
or a
landlords have
tap
told us.
room or whatever.
Exactly.
I always say competition breeds revenue because it does. But there's a difference there's a line between competition and oversaturation market.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I see your point of why you're hitting these markets first.
Well, and like that spot in Clemson too, it's like just now getting completed.
Yeah.
And so like there's going to be a bunch of students going in that place, or I don't know if it's a student. Is it a student or is that for like people to buy and use on game day type of?
No, it's all leased space, and I think they're 90 almost 100% leased out. And I haven't talked to the developer about that recently, but they were at like 96% a couple weeks ago. And it's student housing, grad students and undergrad. It's very nice, probably the nicest apartment complex in that area. Yeah. So we try to plan, because we're signing leases 5 or 10 years out with options to renew 5 to 10 to 20 years beyond that. So we're trying to think long term. Yeah. Like, so yes, we got to get over that initial hump. That's the hard part. We've done that in Anderson so far. We're holding our own and thank God for that, because everything was way more behind schedule, way more over budget than we expected.
Always is.
Yeah. But, I don't regret anything yet. I would, if
you can never have regrets though, because if you try, the way I look at it is if you try, then there's no regret, because at least you tried. Exactly. It's when you don't do it that you're like, what if we'd have just went in then, or what if we'd have done this? Mm-hmm. That's the regret you don't want.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's better to try and fail than not try at all.
That's right.
Well, if you're not failing, then you're not learning.
It's all a challenge.
Period.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's like, why are you so successful? Tell me what you did in the real estate game. I was like, it's easier for me to teach you what mistakes I made than for you to learn from them than it is for you to learn from my successes.
Yeah.
Like, let me save you some hurdles here. Mm-hmm. But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Paul Cain and Magnetic South Brewery.
Are you looking for the perfect vacation spot for your next adventure? Whether it's hiking beautiful waterfalls, mountain biking Stump House Park, wake surfing on Lake Kiwi, or jamming at your favorite concert, Megan Ketterman with Oconee Hospitality has beautiful homes available for short-term rental in Oconee County, South Carolina. Contact Megan today to book your next vacation stay at www.oconeehospitality.com.
Are you looking to make Lake Kiwi your destination? Work with local licensed expert Rhea Land Smith, your certified resort and second home specialist at Lake Kiwi Real Estate. Servicing buyers and sellers since 2013, Rhea is your local expert helping you navigate the real estate waters of Kiwi. Let Rhea make your life a vacation. Call 864-710-9547. And remember, Land is her middle name.
And we're back. So back with Paul Cain, attorney, current county councilman for a couple more months. And then you've served how many years did you serve?
A little over 8.5.
And then, So now it's time to raise kids and stay at home a little more.
That's right.
We appreciate your service thus far, for sure.
Much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Attorney,
it's been an honor.
County
It's not always
councilman,
been fun, but it's been an honor.
Entrepreneur, business owner, brewery owner. Anything else about you? Favorite hobby? Do you have one?
Cigars.
I mean, no.
Not a hobby.
My wife doesn't like me to smoke cigars, so that can't be a hobby.
Understood.
Watches. What else we talk about?
I have a watch. Yeah.
Maybe you like fancy watches though, or
Nah, just ones that tell time.
there you go. Hey,
I mean, that's the best kind.
kind.
I got it on eBay. It was cheap, but it's a good deal.
I heard that. So tell me.
I like to play golf. I like to hike. I love to hike. I love to garden.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to be experimenting. I've got a hydroponic system that I'm going to be growing some lettuces and greens this winter.
And hops under UV light.
Sure.
Jared.
Okay, moving on.
No, I really think that, one of my passions is agriculture. I'm not a real farmer, obviously.
Sure.
Obviously, didn't really pan out with the hops thing, but I've always enjoyed having vegetable gardens. And I believe that the future of farming, at least produce, there's a really cool documentary, and it's a business called 80 Acres Farm. And they grow using high-tech practices, the equivalent of 80 acres worth of food on a 1 acre site.
Yeah.
That's a very high-tech, expensive.
Wow. So are you...
It's food. It's not what you're thinking.
Yeah.
It's truly, high nutrition produce, which, as we look at food prices, and we had a guy yesterday at county council meeting from the America's Farmland Trust, Billy Van Pelt, talking about, losing farmland, Well, if we've got empty buildings, we can grow produce inside and maybe shorten the supply chain and the logistics and the middleman to get fresh, locally grown, nutritious food to people at an affordable price.
Well, I think everything's making a full circle, in my personal opinion. Like, there was a time where everybody wanted it mass produced, easy, efficient, whatever. And now you're seeing it kind of shift back to where people are like, no, I think I want to grow it locally. I can control it. You even see fast food. The popular fast foods are the more healthy, potentially healthier versions of fast food. Because we did kind of the same thing, started growing at our house, and we've kind of experimented with everything just to kind of. It's almost like I want to know how to do it. That's just in case I ever have to.
Right.
I mean, we do. We consume it all and everything, but we probably pick varieties of stuff that we wouldn't normally just to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And everybody got into canning during COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, canning became really popular. It became a jar shortage.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Don't you think it's kind of coming full circle, at least for people that live in an area like us where, you have enough space to garden. They're just like, I want to be self-sufficient. I don't have to worry about, grocery stores or what I'm going to get food.
Yeah. We can if it comes to it or we decide to. We have another option besides some of have to going to the grocery store. What was the warm up you told me to do before the show?
I think the white whale whispers wisely.
The white whale whispers wisely.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, I just fumbled all of my words there together. So I always ask our guests, especially on the entrepreneur side, some of your hurdles. Not your minor hurdles. Everybody's going to have minor hurdles. What were some of your game-changing, oh my gosh moments, this is going to fail, or we need to pull the plug? Was there ever any doubt, or did you figure out this is a hurdle, here's how we get over it? Like, what were some of those?
Yeah. Doubt is always, I think, in the back of your mind in anything that you're doing that's difficult. But you have to have the mindset of failure is not an option. We are going to do this. We're going to succeed, because the moment you start thinking that way, you get defensive. You start, it's like, in a football game when a team falls behind and they lose the momentum, and they just start getting pushed around. You got to, even if you're losing, that's when you really got to.
That's a great call.
Got to
push hard.
That's a great call.
So,
or the other side of that is if the team that's winning and all they're worried about is not losing, they start
playing real conservative.
They start playing real conservative, play defense, and then what happens is they run out of time and
it's over.
They lose right at the last second.
That's right.
And so you can, that kind of goes back into what you're talking about. You were talking about earlier, where people think maybe that you're growing too fast, but we're playing offense.
Right.
We're not playing defense.
That's
right.
We're in market penetration mode, and I will say this: we have a fantastic team. Which is, you're always going to have, anytime you have partnership, you're going to have disagreements, but we try to stay focused on the long-term vision. And that's a key, I think, in any disputes or disagreements is, all right, let's go back to what brought us here.
Yeah. What's our North Star?
Yeah, I agree with that.
What's our magnetic south?
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Then we might have to start
true
using
south?
that. Yeah.
And so where are we trying to get to? What are we trying to develop? What's our brand? How do we get there? And so you always got to begin with the end in mind and work your way back. And so I think we have a very strategic team that, yes, a lot of other people, I'm not trying to sound like we're any better than anybody else, but we've been very strategic with what we do and very diligent and try to make sure we're managing risk and when something comes up, and it always will, let's not think emotionally. Let's be rational about this.
Right.
We can get through it. There's a way through it. Let's figure out our resources, break the problem down, and then, pick up the phone. And if you don't know the answer, just having that network of people to say, this is the issue we're dealing with. What do you think? And I would say 50% of the time when we had a problem, there would be somebody we knew we could call, or somebody we could call who knew somebody else we could call.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to Greg Kutu's comments or his, what he's talking about on the show, it is who you know, but having good people that you've surrounded yourself with, because when the problems come, that's when you find out who your friends are.
Yeah,
and
That's right.
because everybody's your friend. Oh, man, you're opening a brewery. That's so cool. All buddy, trying to get free beer or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then we don't have our water line's not big enough, or we're going to be delayed 2 weeks, or the green space area is not going to open for 4 months. It's going to be 4 months after schedule, or whatever. All right, let's problem solve. What are things we can do? And those aren't great examples of somebody you can call. Sure. Some of those are just you just figure it out.
Well, if you had an engineering issue, you could call somebody that's in that world, right?
Yep.
So you've got a team, you've got some partners. Without giving sensitive data, right? I don't need to know who your partners are. How many partners is part of Magnetic South?
So we started with 3, and we just brought in a 4th.
Okay.
So
did you bring in a 4th for an equity line?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
You just need capital investment.
Yeah, we're growing quickly, and so we needed more capital to continue growing at the same pace.
So is there an exit plan for the last guy in, last money in, first money out, and he's over? Or is this a long-term partnership?
This is a long-term partnership.
Okay, so the 4 of you guys are going to be going at it until exit.
Until death do us part.
Sure. Well, we've talked about before, like a good partnership, 4 equals 8 or 4 equals 50. The power of, synergy, I guess is what they call it. When 2 people can be more than just 2 people, they can.
And your Rolodex. Everybody's got a different, I guess, so you got to choose your partners wisely, right? We get asked that a lot. Do you partner with anybody? I've got one guy that says, I ain't partnering with nobody.
Yeah.
But I can't stand a partner. I'm doing all this on my own. If there's ever a dispute, I don't want to lose friendship, blah, blah, blah. I got another guy. I'm one of them. I know my weaknesses. I want to partner with somebody that covers those.
Yeah.
Right. I don't need somebody like-minded, all just like me. I need somebody that thinks differently than me and acts differently than me.
Right.
So choosing partners is not a minor deal. It is a very major. It is a marriage.
Yeah.
It is. It's a marriage that revolves just around money.
Yeah.
There's no. I mean, sure, I'm friends with my partners, but at the end of the day, we're trying to be profitable. And so, in a marriage, you have, hopefully, there's other things besides money, physical attraction and personalities and all that. But this is just about money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just about money, but we are.
No, it is though.
It is.
It's about money going out or money coming in.
Making a quality product, filling a void, and being profitable to do it again.
Right.
And now you're going to be in your 3rd location within 24 months, and you're just crushing it. So, and I tell people all the time, it really depends on your personality, whether it's only right for you. I can't tell you whether you need a partner or not.
Yeah.
That has to be that person's decision. But it's very important. So if you're thinking about partnering, don't take that lightly.
Oh, I agree 100%. And from a legal standpoint, that is.
Yeah, you see it all the time.
It is very fragile. Partnerships are generally extremely fragile, and communication, of course, is key. Got to have communication. You got to make sure everybody's on the same page, and you got to have written documentation. And that's not for a legal I mean, it's important from a legal standpoint, but it's also important from the outset to establish expectations.
Everybody knows.
And you can always go back to that and say, hey, here's what we talked about, remember?
That's right. Contracts keep business, and friendships.
Yeah. That's right.
Don't get offended if you made me sign an NDA on something you were looking at a while back. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I don't trust you, but I don't trust anybody, sign this piece of paper. But contracts keep business, and friendships. And I've seen it go. Everybody in this room has seen partnerships go sideways, and it's just not a place you want to be. It is like we call it a marriage, but it's like a divorce when it goes bad.
Yeah,
because you want half of that company, you want half the equity, you want half the real estate, and it's just a bad play. So choose your partners really carefully.
So this, as far as you are in this process, any major regrets, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a regret, but maybe something you would have done different if you were starting now? That would be a good point for somebody to take with them. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to
look back.
It's hard to unwind everything because it's all, if I go back a year, then I wouldn't have met this person. And if I go back 2 years, I wouldn't have met these 20 people.
Gotcha.
And so like, it's like that.
That's a great way to look at it though, because, you know, me and Jared talk a lot about don't look in the rearview mirror. Just look forward. It doesn't matter what happened because you can't change it.
Right.
And so that's kind of what you're talking about. You just look at the good things that came out of the fact that you had a bad thing.
I think you have to learn, you're going to learn lessons along the way. But, you know, I think we're talking about before the show or maybe during the show, the best teacher always is experience.
Yeah.
And you're never going to learn better than when you go through it. But at the same time, if you look backwards and have regrets or constantly look in the rearview mirror, that gets into your mindset and your psyche. And then you start second guessing going forward and you just can tear up your mind.
If you're looking at the rearview mirror, you're not going to drive in a straight line.
Exactly. You're going to run into a tree.
That's why the windshield is so much bigger than the rearview mirror.
That's right.
Like you can't just spend all your time looking backwards.
You got to focus. Yeah.
You have to. It takes a lot of discipline to be an entrepreneur. Right.
It does, and those sayings are some would say cheesy, but when you're living it, it's real. Like you have got to be in a good place mentally when you're tired and you're like, where are we going to come up with this money, or we don't have enough of this, or we don't have enough time, or any of that. You've just got to put your head down and say, well, we did it 20 times before this. Let's do it one more time.
Yep.
You know, and so
what's
you just
the
have
worst thing that can happen?
That's right.
Exactly.
And you can recover pretty much from the worst thing that can happen, whatever that is.
That's right.
So I am not risk
Now, I wouldn't
adverse.
borrow money from the mob. I don't think you can recover from that. But
You can. And let me tell you how. You repay it back at 42% interest.
Yeah.
Prime will be there before we know it.
Or
exactly
run
right.
their laundromat for them.
That's right. Find some way to come to an agreement there. But listen, we appreciate your time today. We're finishing this episode up with another Magnetic South can. And this is, I can tell you, an IPA.
Did you drink some more of that?
I finished my glass. So what's the name of this one?
I think the sticker fell off of that. I believe that C's Get Degrees. It's a New England style IPA.
Yeah.
It's not a hazy, but it is
very hoppy.
It is very hoppy. Yeah.
Very hot. Kyle will really like that one.
Yeah, I like it.
And he'll finish that off. So, listen, we appreciate the time, Mr. Paul Cain. And if you're listening, what is the address to the Anderson location that's open now?
It is 516 North Main Street in Anderson. And you can check us out at magneticsouthbeer.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook. But and of course, Google.
South.
Magneticsouthbeer.com.
Yeah.
The Instagram and
At Magnetic South Beer.
okay.
We found Magnetic South Paul. Do you know who that would be?
No idea.
That's me. I don't get on there much because
Sure. Understood. You're an elected official.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in about 3 more months, you'll be posting a good bit.
That's
bit
right.
of
I'll be a
stuff.
free agent again.
That's right.
Free agent.
Cool. This
All
was
right,
awesome.
guys.
All right.
Thanks for your
Thank you
time.
so much for having me.
No problem.
Absolutely. Thanks for the beer.
You're welcome.